Bringing you the latest news from around the world, and here at home I'm Sandro Ferdinando.
And I'm Sarah La Fonseca. But before we head into our stories, first we'll take a look at your headlines.
Bus fares to increase from midnight today. Minimum fare to remain unchanged. Will the $1 billion loan from China for the Central Expressway benefit the country? Experts warn of debt vulnerabilities. Second British rugby player dies in Colombo hospital. Minister Sajid Premadasa responds to allegations on destroying archaeological sites.
The private bus owners say they do not welcome the decision of the Cabinet of Ministers to increase the bus fares by 6.56%. They charge if they do not receive a 20% price increase, they will launch a strike action from midnight tomorrow.
Now, the cabinet meeting was held here at the Presidential Secretariat here at Goldface, Colombo today at 11 o'clock. Now, the discussion concluded at 12 noon.
The cabinet granted approval to increase bus fares, taking into consideration the price hike in diesel and other related factors. As per the cabinet paper, the decision was to increase the prices by 6.56%. The minimum bus fare has not increased. This will come into effect from midnight tonight. This increase in fares will affect SLTB and private buses. We cannot agree to a 6.5% increase. We have to wait for another 1 year for the bus fares to increase. If the diesel prices go up by 6 or 7 rupees, we will have to bear that as well. This is an injustice done to us by the National Transport Commission. The complete responsibility should be taken by Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva. Do not reprimand us. We will have to step aside from the bus service as a result of the injustice that has been done to us. We will do this from the 17th. We do not agree with the increase in price. The fares should have gone up by at least 15%. We will hold a strike until that happens. We will not drive the buses after midnight on Wednesday. The bus services industry is in a bad state. We cannot emerge again. The government is trying to further cripple this service. The government is trying to burden the bus drivers to cover up their wastage. We are against this. The minimum fare should be increased to 15 rupees. If not, as we have informed before, we will go into a strike from midnight on the 16th. If the private buses go on strike, what we can do is to cancel the holidays of the SLTB bus drivers and conductors and to get all of the buses to run. We will have additional trains running as well. Those are the immediate steps. We will hold discussions with them thereafter. They request that the bus fare should be increased by 20%. Then the minimum should be 15 rupees. Is that correct? Tell them not to be like Shylocks from Merchant of Venice.
The public will suffer during the strike.
We cannot afford this with our income.
The government should think about the citizens as well.
It will be unjust if the bus fare increases.
If they increase the bus fare, that will only burden us.
It is the general public who is suffering. Nobody thinks about us.
The estate workers are facing hardships as a result of the kerosene oil price hike. Newsfirst Nagalingam Jagannath Khanna filed this report.
These houses in Bogowanthalava have been constructed during the colonial era. The residents of these houses only receive a daily income of 500 rupees. This amount is not at all adequate to fulfill their day-to-day needs. With the kerosene oil price hike, their troubles worsen as they have to spend more to keep their houses lit during the night. With the rainy season setting in, the usage of kerosene oil has increased in these areas. These residents who were once battered by the increase in the prices of essential goods are now further burdened due to the increase in kerosene oil prices.
We are currently at Bogowanthalava. The residents in the area says they are facing difficulties because of high cost of living, and the recent increase in fuel prices has also affected them. Yesterday, the Prime Minister's office informed the good news, saying the Chinese government has agreed to provide a loan of $1 billion in a situation where the people in upcountry are suffering. Is this really a good news? For Newsfirst team, I am Nagalingam Jagannath Khanna.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister's office announced China is prepared to provide $1 billion as a loan for the construction of the first phase of the Central Expressway. It noted this quote-unquote good news was conveyed to the Prime Minister when he called on the Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka. But is obtaining a loan of $1 billion something to be happy about?
When Mahinda Rajapaksa was elected president in 2005, the total debt obtained by the country at that time was 2,222 billion rupees. In 2010, that is when Mahinda Rajapaksa reached the halfway mark of his decade-long reign, the debt had increased to 4,590 billion rupees. When the new government was elected following his defeat in 2015, the total debt of Sri Lanka was 7,391 billion rupees. As of 2017, under the present government, the total debt of the country had increased to 10,313 billion rupees. According to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the reason for the government's debt burden to increase is because the government's revenue is at a low. The Central Bank says the revenue generated was not even sufficient to cover the daily cost of the country during the past several years. As a result of this situation, loans have to be obtained to repay the previously obtained debt and for large-scale projects as well as for the daily expenses of the country. According to data from the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, when the country entered into 2018, the debt-to-GDP ratio was 77.6%. How will a loan obtained as very high interest rate for road construction benefit the country rather than obtaining government-to-government concessionary aid for strategic development projects?
They boast of a $1 billion loan. However, that will be used up immediately after obtaining it. This year, we have to repay $4 billion in international loans. We need to locate funds for that. In the village, you find the money lender. When they get to know of our need, they offer money at 10%. If the need is urgent, we will obtain money at 10%. The present government follows that process to obtain loans. During the past 3 years, this government has spent 1,100 days in power. They have incurred a debt of 3,300 billion rupees. That means 3,000 million rupees in debt per day. The government went on selling whatever they can, and now they are planning on selling off state enterprises that generate revenue. This is because of the difficulty in obtaining loans from overseas. Conditions have been imposed by the ADB, the World Bank and the IMF, and they need to meet those conditions. This is not the skill or talent of the government. Under this system, we cannot take the country forward without obtaining debt.
When you have a look at the Central Bank annual report, it is very clear the highest debt repayment in history will be in 2018, 2019 and 2020, and we feel the pressure until 2022. In such a situation, large loans are obtained. One can say this would increase the country's debt burden and lead the country towards bankruptcy. My view is that the government has not identified the priorities in development. I believe the government must prioritize rapid road development in the Western province.
The Prime Minister said that the $1 billion loan from Sri Lanka for the expressway is good news for the country. They continuously said it is impossible to repay what obtained by those who were in power before. And now they are having fun saying they obtained a large loan. Why is $1 billion given? Chinese firms will come to the country with their own labour force for the construction of the expressway, and there won't be any opportunity for Sri Lankans to work there. If $1 billion is for that, what will happen to the people who gave up their lands and lost their homes? Who will be paying for the compensation for them? When all this is added to the economy, will our children and children's children ever be able to repay these loans?
Recently, the newly elected Prime Minister of Malaysia made a statement about his country's economy, and would it not apply to Sri Lanka as well?
In the case of Najib, what he does is he invites foreign investment from China to buy property in Malaysia, develop whole sophisticated towns which are priced beyond the reach of Malaysians, and the chances are that this development will be for outsiders, including mainland Chinese, to come and live here. That is not foreign direct investment. And none of our people are employed as workers. None of our companies are used for designing and planning and supervising, etc. We gain nothing.
So would your way be to put a quota, a limit on Chinese FDI in Malaysia?
No, there is already a good definition of FDI. They want to come and set up factories here, using our workers, using our managers. They're welcome like everybody else.
Moody's Investor Service report has ranked Sri Lanka among the most vulnerable economies exposed to the interest rate shocks over the next 4 years due to the relatively short average debt maturities and weak debt affordability. Now, the report comes ahead of the country's bunched up external debt repayments from 2019 to 2022.
Elisa Parisi Capone, a Moody's Vice President, Senior Analyst and co-author of the report, says the sovereigns most vulnerable to an interest rate shock are generally low-rated, with shorter maturities and weak debt affordability. According to Moody's, Sri Lanka's interest-to-revenue ratio could increase by 5.3% and 10.4% over the next 4 years from the current 35% in a potential moderate or severe shock compared with the 0.8% decline expected in the baseline. It adds Sri Lanka also remained as one of the weakest economies in terms of fiscal strength, as the country is ranked among the nations which scored the lowest points on the 15-rung scale in Moody's global sovereign rating methodology. The rating agency highlighted that Pakistan, Mongolia, Sri Lanka and the Maldives are most exposed to higher cost of debt in the Asia-Pacific and feeds mostly through weaker debt affordability. Most of China's investments have gone to those countries.
Former Minister of Finance UMP parliamentarian Rugby Naika expressed the following views regarding the economy of the country.
Though the government has changed, the ghosts of the past are still haunting. That is why they have let the rupee to depreciate in this manner. We are speaking about foreign reserves and about strengthening them. They have obtained $2.5 billion at 7% and have kept the reserves for 2%, and they are speaking of the economy. They have let the rupee float. Theoretical politicians say that is a good thing. When the rupee depreciates, the country has to spend 40 billion rupees in the budget. I do not know how a depreciating rupee is good for the country. In a country where imports are at 68%, in a country where there are no essential export goods, how this will help is a question. The problem here is you know what the disease is, but they do not know how to administer the medicine. That is the problem they have. I am not in the cabinet of ministers. During my time it was reduced. Ask this from the people who have increased the prices.
Meanwhile, former Minister Bandula Gunawardena attended the media briefing organized by the joint opposition to comment on the country's economy.
2014 භූමි තෙල් ලීටරයක් රුපියල් 111යි. අද භූමි තෙල් ලීටරයක් 157යි. ලෝක වෙළඳපොලේ තෙල් මිල අඩු වෙලා භූමි තෙල් මිල වැඩි වෙලා. දැන් ඒක ගැන කවුරුත් ප්‍රශ්න කළේ නැහැ. 57ක් වැඩි වෙලා. 95 නේ තිබුණේ. දැන් ගාන 101යි. හරි. ඔව් ඒක හරි. දැන් 150ට තිබුණ පෙට්‍රල් 137යි. හරිද? අතන 158ට 2014 තිබුණ ඩීසල් 142යි. හරිද? 142. ඩීසල් 109යි. මේ වැඩි කරාට පස්සේ භූමි තෙල් 101යි. 46යි නේ. ලීටරේ තිබෙන්නේ 44යි. 44 භූමි තෙල් එක. භූමි තෙල් ලීටරයක් අපේ කාලේ තිබිලා තියෙන්නේ ලීටරයක මිල දේශීය විකුණුම් මිල රුපියල් 81. 2014 මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ යුගයටත් වඩා භූමි තෙල් මිල මේ වැඩි කිරීමෙන් පස්සේ ඉහළ ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා.
The second player from a British rugby club visiting Sri Lanka died today, 2 days after being admitted to hospital with breathing difficulties. The judicial post-mortem examination on the death of other British rugby player who died on Sunday night revealed the cause of the death could be an overdose of narcotic substance.
The British rugby club visiting Sri Lanka has arrived in the country last week and comprised of 22 players and a manager. Police said the team took part in a friendly rugby encounter on the 12th in Colombo and thereafter attended a dinner at the premises. Police records state the team subsequently reached their hotel in Colombo. The judicial medical report issued with regard to the death of the 26-year-old rugby player from England says that he had consumed alcohol and a narcotic substance. Police say that he arrived in a nightclub located in Colombo 3 on Saturday evening.
The players had returned to their hotel at around 4 the next morning, and at around 10 in the morning, 2 of them were rushed to a private hospital in Colombo as they complained of breathing difficulties. Police reported one of them died at around 12 noon on Sunday. The police report further noted the deceased was a 26-year-old named Thomas Andrew Howard. Richard Wilkinson, club president, had extended his sympathy to the family of Howard on the club's official website. The incident was picked up by many international media outlets, including the BBC. This evening, 27-year-old Thomas Beatty, who was being treated in hospital, also passed away.
All expenses for the Umar Oil Multipurpose development project, which was launched under the Iranian government funding, is now being borne by the Treasury.
Work on the Umar Oil Multipurpose Development Project commenced in 2008 with a loan provided by the Export Development Bank of Iran. The project comprises of a 120 megawatts hydropower station, a 27-kilometer long tunnel and 2 reservoirs with an allocation of $525 million for the project. However, as the US and its allies imposed sanctions on Iran and the impact it had on the open economy, the loan due to the Sri Lankan government for the project did not realize. The Ministry of Mahavali Development and Environment says it is the Treasury that is spending on all expenses for this project. The government has reached a decision to withhold a sum of 800 million rupees from the total estimate to the Iranian and German contractors undertaking the tunneling for the project. The government hopes to use these funds to provide compensation to the houses damaged during the excavation process and to launch new water projects in catchment areas that were affected. As an environmental feasibility study is yet to be carried out, the locals in Tantiriya, Kinigama and Udaperuwa are facing a serious difficulty in obtaining clean drinking water. The Ministry of Mahavali Development and Environment says 3 new water supply projects have been launched and water at present is being distributed via bowsers. We have to wait until they bring us water. They only bring water to us when we call and inform them. The wells have dried up and there is no water in them.
My cultivations were destroyed as a result of the Umar Oil project. Unfortunately, the authorities do not care about these cultivations. I am a victim from this project and I was evicted from the house I was living in. It's been 7 months now.
Professional bodies in Sri Lanka raised several concerns over recently signed Sri Lanka Singapore Free Trade Agreement. They charged that this particular FTA would impact the job market in the country. The United Professional Movement convened a media briefing today.
There is a high chance that this particular FTA could turn into the biggest fraud in the country. 3,000 goods will be exempt from import duties through this for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years or 15 years as per the details that have been mentioned in this. For example, paddy will be exempt from duties in 12 years. Fruits will be imported into Sri Lanka without import duties in a few years. Sometimes this may include coconut-related products. When they say that the import duties are being reduced systematically, it means that they are lining their pockets with the taxes that come in now. This could be the biggest fraud in the country. The government agreed to 3 points. One was that a policy will be created with regard to international trade. They said that a feasibility study will be done to determine the losses that the country would face and a decision will be taken thereafter. The framework of the equal rights of professionals have not been set up. They have not completed those promises.
The United Professionals Movement raised allegations that the authorities have not obtained the views and ideas of professional bodies with regard to this particular free trade agreement. They also charged that the adverse factors that they were able to point out have been forgotten by the government.
The caretakers of this country who were elected by our vote do not trust the citizens of the country. However much we tell them that this should be done in this way and we would join hands with you if you are doing the right thing, they have ignored the citizens of this country, the educated people, the professionals. The caretakers of this country are doing what they want. They are working according to their own agendas. If the need is for an FTA regarding goods, our imports have to increase. There is no barrier for Singapore to increase their imports. It is a completely liberalized country. Singapore will want to send their goods here. 20 to 30 years ago, we had politicians who had an ideology to develop industries here at home and make this country a self-sufficient country. Instead, today, from the day Minister Malik Samaravikrama took over this subject, he has acted as if this country is his personal property. We see this when it comes to this FTA as well. The people of this country have been deceived.
The matter was discussed on the Face the Nation program aired last night.
It is extremely dangerous thing probably. Now if the government wants to put a stop at one stage, once we sign an international agreement, you can't do that because you have to pay large sums of compensation. So therefore, I think the officers probably they don't know what's happening really, because cross-border supply means actually you don't have to have a single person here, but you can get the services from Singapore. So it will shut down completely some of the industries. Even it could be affect even small-scale industries.
Following the cabinet meeting, Minister Sajith Premadasa responded to several questions raised by the media.
Minister, there is an allegation claiming you were involved in excavating for treasure in Anuradhapura.
This is a baseless allegation aimed to assassinate the character of Sajith Premadasa. Our objective is to create 2,500 Uda Gammana concept villages. We have launched 713 such projects and they need to be done daily. We need to launch 3 Uda Gammana concept villages daily if we are to meet the target of 2,500 villages. This is a massive project. It is entirely unfair to hold me responsible for a shortcoming that took place from the officers involved in this project. I have never engaged in such disgraceful acts. The allegations were made ever since my father launched the Ministry of Buddha Sasana. I pray that God blesses all those who spread such statements.
Minister, if this is a massive project, have you not given your officials instructions on selecting a plot of land and the issue that could arise?
I have given them the instructions. That is why we have not hesitated in taking disciplinary action. If the allegation is proven against those officials, they will no longer be able to serve in my ministry.
The Rasagala hospital does not have the basic facilities to treat patients, and the 95-year-old Palathuwa Gunaratna Central College in Madara has a building that is in a dilapidated state.
And that's not all. A road in Villachia was constructed using public funds in 2012 and it is yet to be declared open, while the road from Karadagolla to Gonadene is unsafe for those who use it. Now, these are just some of the issues that the people face. And up next is the voice of the people, where we highlight them.
Voice of the village.
This is Rasagala Regional Hospital that treats almost 200 patients on a daily basis. The land on which this hospital is located on has been classified as one that is semi-prone to landslides. The Office of the Health Services Director in the Sabaragamu province had taken measures to move the hospital to the upper floor of the Rasagala Ayurvedic Centre as a temporary measure. It's better if they renovate the old hospital. We have no space to sit here. This place also has a shortage of doctors. All people come here. There is no place to move anyone if they faint. The locals request a security fence be constructed around the premises of the old hospital.
There are less facilities for the doctor to administer treatment to the patients. If a fence is constructed, the risk of a landslide will be very low.
The Villachia access road to the Vilpattu National Park was constructed in 2012 to coincide with the Dietacurial National Exhibition. However, it is yet to be declared open for the people. The road spans from the Villachia IS7 to Kadiramale Junction, and from there it extends from all the way to Mana from Putlam.
Millions were spent for the construction of this road. The road comprises of anicats and has been constructed well. We cannot even see the elephants moving.
The dilapidated state of the road leading from Karandagolla to Gonadenia under the Ridigama Regional Divisional Secretariat jurisdiction has posed a serious risk to those who use this road.
The people cannot walk on foot and vehicles cannot travel on it. If a bus operates today, it won't operate for the next 10 days. We cannot even take a patient to the hospital.
This is a building located in the premises of the 95-year-old Palatuwa Gunaratna Central College in Mathura. This school provides education to around 2,000 students.
The students will be hurt if a roofing tile falls on them. We request the authorities to focus on the situation and rectify the matter. Voice of the Village.
Let's now take a look at today's illustrated news by Asanka Ladwahetti.
And with that, wrap up Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. For the News First team, I'm Sandru Ferdinando.
And I'm Sarah Fonseca. Good night, take care, God bless.